Okay, good evening, everyone. Thank you for attending this evening's connectivity committee meeting. It's good to see everybody, sort of half. This evening, we'll just get started right away. We have a guest speaker tonight. His name is Ralph.
Not just me.
Oh, you
Nope.
froze,
Nope.
Shauna.
That's ironic.
That is ironic.
On that solid.
Story of our lives, eh?
Yeah.
Well, while Shauna's trying to connect, because she had mentioned she had an internet issue, I'll just take over for now, so we're not wasting everyone's time. So as she started to say, we have a guest speaker this evening, Rolf Paulson. Rolf is representing a local ISP known as NetSolid, and I can see that Rolf is trying to connect as well. So we'll see if that's working. In the meantime, it'd be kind of nice to do some introductions if you don't mind, because the last time we met, I don't know if we had Lisa on our call. I can't recall.
We did.
We did. Okay, sorry for not remembering. So maybe we all do know everybody. And I can see that Ralph's not logged in yet. He's trying here.
No, I'm here actually. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Okay. Have you been able to come back on,
yeah.
Shauna?
Manual phone number there. I wasn't able to get in with my laptop on time, but I didn't want to delay everybody, so I was able to just call in.
Okay, that's great. We're so happy to have you. I understand you're busy too and out of town, so I appreciate you taking that time.
Yeah, my pleasure.
So Shauna has just texted me saying she's having internet issues, so we're just going to keep moving along if that's okay with you. Sorry, you had a question, Stephanie?
Who is Slem 2? Or did they? Oh, hi. You don't have to turn your camera. I just couldn't remember who was who.
Yeah, sorry.
Actually, Sam, do you mind just kind of taking the lead then? I didn't mean to kind of take over at the beginning just to coordinate, and then we can maybe figure out who's all in attendance.
Yeah, no problem. So do I have to call the meeting to order? Do we have to do a formality there? Okay, yeah. So thanks to everyone for being punctual and showing up. It's a shame Shauna's internet isn't helping us out, but it is a little redundant. Guess we'll call the meeting to order. So all in favor of opening the meeting? Can I get a mover and a seconder? Moved by Stephanie, second by Corey. All in favor?
I missed the seconder, Sam. I apologize.
Corey.
Corey, thank you.
Okay. Do we have we didn't have minutes to approve? Guess we probably should, but.
No, we didn't bother carrying the minutes forward. Sorry.
It's been a while. I remember.
It's been a while, and the way our committee is set up, we don't actually have to, formally approve them when we're just meeting here and there. But we can do that formally if you wish at another meeting.
It's fine. I think the last time we had a meeting, I was in a different I think it was 2 houses ago for me. So, okay. So you want me to ask Rolf to take the lead then now?
Yeah. Or if there's any introductions on the line, just we can introduce ourselves to Rolf. And I don't know if Shauna knows everyone. I think she's trying to get back in. But yes.
I'll lead off. My name's Sam McDonnell, and I'm a counselor with the council in South Glengarry. So I'll give it off to Stephanie. If Stephanie wants to give us a.
Hi, thanks, Sam. So I'm Stephanie Jaworski. I'm a first-term counselor also with the Township of South Glengarry. I'll pass it over to Corey.
Hi, everyone. Corey Kelsey, business person, lifelong Glengarian, don't plan on ever leaving, and chairman of Glengarry Hospital.
Hi, I'm Lisa Severson. I have my video off. My internet is not great either. where I am, just outside of Prescott. So I work for the Eastern Ontario Regional Network and have been asked to participate on the committee.
Excellent. And I forget, I'm sorry, I forget your name already. I see it's Selma. Selm too.
Sylvain Amir.
Help us out with that.
Sylvain.
Yes,
Sylvain.
I'm Sylvain Amir, just retired communication worker, if you want, and part of the citizen on the committee.
Okay, so I think I'm the last one. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Joanne Haley, and Shauna and I work closely together on the connectivity projects as they come our way. And as I mentioned, we're happy to have Rolf with us this evening. Both Sam and I can probably say a few positive things about Rolf and what he's doing for our community, and a few people he's been able to connect. I don't want to steer your thunder though, Rolf, because I know you have some good information to share with us, but Sam, you may want to speak to that as well.
Yeah, I actually first came across Rolf in my home area where internet's really tough, just north of Banesville and into Banesville area. And it was through actually a client of mine who was dealing with Rolf to put basically a transmission tower up off of one of his grain elevators. And he's been very well known around Banesville and down along the front. I think Craig Key is another spot that they have a tower. I see the signs everywhere. I don't think there's a hydro pole in the southeast corner you've missed, Rolf, with the drill and the signs. So that solid internet seems to be taking off down this area, and I know it's greatly appreciated by the people on it. So if you want to maybe give us an update as to, I guess, where you're at with your expansion, and give us some broad information on how you kind of got started with this in this area and where you've been successful as well with your business.
Yeah, that'd be my pleasure. So basically, first of all, thanks for inviting me in here. We started a business back in 2007, providing internet to hard to reach rural areas. And then, starting this summer, I moved into Banesville and found, there's no internet there practically. So I figured, okay, well, another area we need to build our services to. And I mean, the feedback from everybody has been overwhelmingly positive. We were able to bring in a fiber connection. We were able to set up 4 sites so far, and we have another 12 planned at least for this year. With the possibility of doing many more, if areas come up and there's interest from people. Basically, the way our system works is we're a fixed wireless provider, but we have a fiber optic backbone that's our own, that we use the incumbent providers like Bell, Telus, Rogers, whoever's there, to connect up, back to our data center. And we give everybody public IP addresses. We operate in the exact same way that like Bell and Rogers and all the big guys work, that our customers get a DMARC point at home. They get their own router connected up there, and they get a direct high-speed internet connection going out to the web. So basically, same kind of quality internet as you would see, in downtown urban centers, but out, wherever it's needed. So I think we've done, a pretty good start in the second half of 2020 there in covering Greg Key. There's a tower at my house off 151st. There's the center of Banesville, and then there's a tower on the north side of Banesville there that kind of covers that area. And then, now we're basically going based off of requests to add on, as many more areas until we cover pretty much all of South Glengarry.
So I guess I have a question for you, Rolf, before you go much further. How does your expansion work from, so say you're covering Banesville right now, and say I were to come to you and say, listen, I'm a resident on the 9th concession at the other end of the township north, and my internet is poor up here. What could we do there? Do you need to all of a sudden start with a new tower? And what does a tower cover for, say, radius or the average user? Do you have kind of a bearing for what you would be, like a benchmark you would need?
Sure. I mean, to give you an idea, what we try to do is keep the customers within 5 kilometers of any tower site. Whenever possible, we try to use grain elevators, silos, existing infrastructure, partially to keep the cost down, partially to keep the environmental impact down, and partially to speed up the process that we can deploy for, or the time we can deploy in. So effectively, if I've got an address, I look it up, I see if it's within our current coverage zone. If we don't have it, then we noted it down, and you know, as we get more and more requests in an area, we put more focus on trying to you know, find a local piece of infrastructure that we can install on. If we have a lot of requests but there is no infrastructure, then we'll try to find some land that we can put a tower on. The tower process obviously is more expensive and takes a little bit longer. We try to stay under the 100-foot mark with the towers so that we don't have to get Industry Canada involved, and we just stay with the local bylaws. But you know, obviously there's a number of factors that come in there, like airports and all that kind of stuff.
So I saw Lisa's hand went up. I don't know if she has a question.
I do. So what speeds are you offering for packages? Are you offering like the 25 by 1? Or are you looking at trying to offer the 50-10 that's been the goal of the CRTC? And what is your the number of people you allow on towers? Because I know with fixed wireless, the more folks you get on, the more users that are on, that impacts service, right?
Yep. Well, to give you an idea, our smallest package is 10 by 10. We already have a 50 by 20 package that's available everywhere. And we will soon have a 75 by 25 package and a 100 by 30 package available. We don't really have a limit as to how many customers we put on a tower, because basically we can continue building backbone infrastructure to any towers. We work on a full mesh network. So I can bring in multiple 500 meg links and gigi links to each tower site. Just to my tower and off 151st Street there, I have about 800 megs of capacity right now on a single link, and I can build that up and bring in a second link from one of the other towers there that would add another 500 to 800 megs capacity. So there's no problem at all.
With the fiber backhaul that you're building, are you doing that airily on hydro poles? Do you have to go through the whole process, or are you doing that? Are you burying the fiber?
Well, right now the backbone for the fiber, the backbone for the fiber, we leave it up to the incumbent providers in the area. So like Bell, TELUS, whoever is there, and we'll bring a fiber as close as possible. So in the case of Bainville, the closest fiber we were able to get is in Rivière-Baudet.
So
we will be adding another
into the pot then.
Yeah. We'll be adding another fiber point in Cornwall, possibly another one in Lancaster. I'm waiting on some feedback there. And we'll be getting another one somewhere around Vankleek Hill. So we'll be doing a few wireless hops, but because we're fully meshed, we can connect all those fibers together, and they can be 1 gig, 10 gig, 100 gig fibers. It doesn't matter to us. You know, we build it based off of the requirements, and we can upgrade anytime. Like I start with minimum 1 gig, but if our requirements grow beyond 1 gig, we simply upgrade them to a 10 gig link. And if they grow beyond that, we can do multiple 10 gigs or 100 gig links.
Okay, super. Thank you.
We don't really have the capacity limits to worry about there. We can really build whatever is required based on the area. Now, based on the number of residents there, with 10 gig links at every site, we have more than sufficient capacity. I mean, to give you a sort of backbone idea, every 1,000 customers is about 4 to 5 gigabits of capacity that's required. So, you know, serving the entire area with all the residents in there, you know, it's, I mean, just the number of households and businesses, we easily have more than enough capacity to serve everybody with the infrastructure that we can build right now, you know, active within the next 30 days.
Okay, super. Thank you for that information.
Just
Yep,
a
my
question.
pleasure.
Based on your
Yep.
fiber backbone, that's different than say, I think it's ExploreNet. A lot of theirs is run through a DSL backbone, correct? And
ExploreNet has two different options. They either run through a local DSL POP or through satellite-based internet. And they typically try to go massive distances without any, basically feeding everything off their satellites there. They have their local POP sites, which are often fiber fed or often wirelessly fed from satellites, and fiber fed, only in like one location, serving tens of thousands of customers. Whereas instead, what we do is we put, multiple fibers that are feeding all these customers. And, because we cross-link all of these fibers and all these sites together, we also add redundancy that they just don't have. We're using a slightly different technology than what they are, and our technology is more suited for this type of more modern mesh work versus the LTE infrastructure that they have that just doesn't handle that kind of connectivity.
So I guess the other thing too that has often been an issue with ExploreNet is line of sight. Do you
Yep.
have any of that issue, seeing as you are? I think there's a Bell program. I think I had spoken with a guy about in the area about it, and he said when you have a fiber backbone, it will. Is it possible? It has a better connection, say through tree cover or say tin roof, etc. Things such as that.
We get much closer to the site, and we always install the antenna on the outside of the person's house on the roof. So between having multiple sites kind of surrounding the people and being as close as possible to them, that's why we stick to that 5-kilometer limit. We solve most line of sight issues like that. Okay. Now, every once in a while it does happen. There's some trees or some buildings in the way. I'd say more trees or mountains and stuff in this area. And, that's why, and if we really run out of options, we can always put a tower at the end user's house just to get over those trees. And we've done this in many cases. It's just a standard TV antenna towers. Typically, we don't have to go much more than 30 to 50 feet.
Okay. Actually, I know somebody who just did that as well, and it was actually relatively inexpensive for what I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, it's only about $125 per section, per 10-foot section. So 3 sections, you're looking at about $400 to put it up. It's relatively affordable.
Perfect. I'm just looking around. Does anybody else have any other questions? Stephanie, you've got a question. Go ahead.
Thanks through you, Sam. So, I mean, it's easier for me to sort of understand this if I, just kind of like use myself as an example. So, like, for example, I'm a few concessions north of Williamstown. So if you take the 34 and you go north, I'm before you get to 18. So I'm currently on Bell DSL. Like and I'm sort of halfway between I'm halfway between 34 and 19. So I'm like kind of directly north of Williamstown. If I wanted your service, how would that work? Like, is there a fiber backbone that's, on 34, or how would, like, I don't know if you know enough about where I am to sort of walk me through what that would mean.
I have a pretty good idea. There is a farm in Williamstown that we have already spoken to the owner. There is a fiber cable that is running along there, but Bell has told me as of right now there is no capacity on that cable available. So what we would do is we would feed that silo in Williamstown back to our fiber connection in Rivière-Baudette, and we would then also connect them up to our fiber connection in Cornwall. And basically doing that, we would be able to have about a gigi capacity on there. Now, obviously, not having your address, I wouldn't be able to do a guarantee that the service is available. But based on the general area, the coverage there looks quite good. So we would be able to, as soon as we have that site up and running, we'd be able to provide service at your house as well.
And when you say you're connecting the fiber back to Rivière-Baudette, or you're connecting it to Cornwall, like, does that mean you are running new fiber, or does that mean you're doing this mesh wireless kind of connection?
we're basically doing 2 wireless connections back. One that would go back to Riviera Baudette, and then the other one that would go back to that would backhaul to Cornwall. And basically, if one of these links goes down, we still have at least a 500 meg capacity. If both links are up, we have a full gigi capacity at this site.
Okay, but those are wireless.
Yeah, those are fixed wireless connections that we use. And that just allows us to expand a lot faster without having also the infrastructure cost to bring the fiber in along the poles. Because the cost of the fiber is relatively cheap, but the cost of the engineering and the time delay on the engineering is very long. So.
Okay, no, I appreciate that. Thank you for that.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Joanne, go ahead.
Thank you, Sam. I just would like to fill the committee in on what happens in our office when we receive phone calls from our residents letting us know that they're unhappy with their provider, or they are looking for other options. And so what we do is we keep, first of all, everybody would know that they would need to be directed to me or Shauna. And we would keep a list of individuals that have contacted us to let us know that they, if they let us know they either don't have a service or they're looking for different options. So after our introduction with Ralph this summer, we've been able to connect Ralph with quite a few of our residents. Craig Key is a perfect example where I reached out to the resident association and asked if it was okay if they exchanged information. So Ralph, can you give us an example of how many residents you were able to connect in that area?
Sure. I believe we have at least about 25 or so there now. I know there's been a tremendous amount of requests still coming in every day, and we have more people that just didn't even know we were there yet, that just saw our truck installing, and they've been calling us asking to get themselves connected as well. So it may be closer to 30 or even beyond that already. I would have to check. I only have the numbers from last week, and I know my guys were installing a number of people there. They're also going there again tomorrow to do some more installs. So that number changes, on a week-to-week basis. The feedback we've gotten from there has been overwhelmingly positive. A lot of people have been very happy and have said the speed is excellent. So, I was happy to hear that. And I mean, we have more areas around there that we're looking at doing pretty much the exact same thing. There's Redwood Estates right beside there, and there's another small area just further west of Greg Key. I forgot the name right now, but same kind of thing, and we have quite a number of requests there.
Yeah, I think you were looking at Wesley's Point because they had sent a couple of those residents your way.
Yep, that was it.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, Wesley's Point. Sorry, I too many names in my head right now. I didn't want to confuse them.
No, that's great. Thank you.
So I had a question, I guess, and I'll put it through Lisa, if you don't mind indulging me, Lisa. I'm assuming from for you to expand your business, Rolf, to have a better idea of where our internet is lacking, what would be beneficial, a map? And I think Lisa can maybe chime in and say whether we have already some of this data, or if we have access to it maybe through eORN. Because I know the committee has put money in, or the committee and Joanne and myself and Stephanie had requested that, and Shauna had requested that we put money into a reserve fund through council at budget to start treating internets like our roads, infrastructure, and bridges, and look at it on a broader area, and not just looking at trying to improve it all over and on our own dime, putting effort in. What should we be spending this money on? What's going to help Rolf expand, and what can we do with eORN, or what should we be building off of what eORN already has?
So what we do have right now is, Sam, is we have provided, and I know that the county received the information today. There was a bit of a glitch in getting them the information, and so that's been rectified. So they have mapping at a county level. It's not per municipality for SDNG, and it shows demand mapping for both a 5010 which was what the CRTC's aspirational goals is, as well as gig. So it shows demand. And so when we created our demand mapping, it's not only where people live and where people work, but it's also, we've estimated, we had to purchase MPAC data. So we know if it's a farm, we know if it's a multi-residential unit, and we've built that into our demand mapping. So we have that mapping available. We've also overlaid, and I'm not sure if that's included in the mapping that our technical manager, Paula Preston, who is an engineer and has worked in the field for many, many, many years. But we've actually overlaid the, I said 50-10 mapping. So if the municipality is looking at all to access some of the funding that's available right now through the different funding programs, so there's ICON through the provincial government, and there's the new UBF funding through the federal government, you would have to work with a TSP, a registered TSP, on making a submission. The ICON program is 25% of the total cost of the project, and UBF, the Universal Broadband Fund, it will go up to 75, not saying they will give you the whole 75%. So if you can find a partner, those maps that we have provided at a county level are available to the local municipalities. And if there's any questions about that mapping, we'd be happy to sit with staff, go through it, and try and help decipher. But if you're going to work with a partner and look at trying to utilize or apply for some of this funding, you have to have a TSP, a telecommunications service provider, who is making the application with you. You have to have a partner, and they have to have a detailed design to provide for that funding. And if you're if you only received, say if whatever TSP you decided to work with, they didn't have the entire amount as to what it would cost to cover your municipality, the municipality may have to pay a certain portion of that to help subsidize. And I'm sure you as counselors would probably understand that, yeah. But I'm for the folks, oh, there's Shauna, yeah.
I could just can confirm that we did receive the reports from the county today. So they're kind of a high overview, the mapping of all of SDG, but I'm not too sure how the sharing, but definitely the presentation that was to County Council was part of that package, and we can definitely share that with the committee, no problem.
That'd be good. I guess I'll go to Stephanie in a second. I guess just to kind of put this all together, Rolf, what would be, I guess, what would be the most beneficial to you for us to look at putting forward, or companies like yourself that are looking to expand it? Like, you know, what do you want to see from us? Like, I'm assuming you don't want to go and spend the money putting up links and finding places to put off to put up your infrastructure just to find out that, you know, well, it's one upset resident who's demanding a lot of rural broadband, as opposed to, you know, an actual true area like, say, Craigie, where, you know, there's say 100 houses in there, and you're at this point you've hooked up probably 30, or will be hooking up 30. You know, when you've got 30% of an area in a short period of time, and along with everything else along the Highway 2 front east of Lancaster, you know, like I can tell you where, you know, offhand I can say, you know, north of Martintown is bad, north of Green Valley is bad, but I don't know how bad because I haven't lived there. I just hear it from time to time. You know, like what would you see hardcore or kind of hard facts or good solid information?
Yeah, well, look, the more information we have, you know, the more it can help us focus. We have a pretty tried, tested, and true method that, you know, what we do is we find existing infrastructure, install on there, and start hooking up clients. And I mean, to date, it hasn't failed us. You know, there are times when we have looked at some access points and gone back and said, well, you know what, there's not enough customers on here. We have, you know, the 1 or 2 customers we have here, we can serve from a different direction. We're going to shut this site down and reuse the assets on a different site. So, you know, it's never really wasted effort. It just wastes a lot more time more than anything else. So the more information we can get as to where, you know, service is bad, the more it helps us. You know, that being said, most of the time people talk to their neighbors. We get a pretty good idea, and a lot of people, we always tell them, look, the more requests we have from your area, the faster we can build it there. Because if I have an area with 1 request over here and I have an area, you know, over there with 15 requests, I'm going to go for the one with 15 requests first before I go to the one with the 1 request. So, you know, that kind of helps us as well. You know, that being said, I know there's a lot of areas. Yep,
are you
sorry,
looking at trying to access some of the provincial and federal funding that's out right now?
We have already made an application for federal funding under the Rapid Response Program. I'm waiting for answers back there. Everything was submitted like January 12th or so, and the deadline was on the 15th. So I'm waiting to see what they come back with. I'm also noticing they have a tremendous amount of terrible information. You know, where they're saying certain areas are already up to high speed, and I mean, we've got crazy amount of requests from some of these areas. There's other areas where they're saying nothing is available, and we know for a fact that like Bell 5 is already available there. So I don't know how accurate their maps are or what's going to happen there exactly. If we can get access to some funds.
Yeah, I know there is a way that you can actually not dispute, but you can say, you know, we have proof, but you have to have the proof to show that there isn't the 5010 service there. So be it by, you know, speed tests, etc., for residents. But we do know, and from what we understand as well, they are also, I think what they've built into their new mapping is Cti Funding Program. So it was a previous program that was out. They've, even though they may not have officially announced some of that funding yet, they've already incorporated those areas as covered because they will be receiving Cti. I don't know what is in your area that may receive Cti, but that's what we've been told.
Okay. Definitely, if we can get access to any kind of funding, it will only help us expand things faster. You know, I'm basically working with my current crews right now. I'm hoping to hire a few new crews so we can speed up the timeline a little bit there this year, but that's all going to depend on what kind of funds we can get and where. You know, we're a very flexible company. I don't have a huge amount of employees. We're only about 15 full-time staff members right now. The rest is all outsourced people. And well, we would have been 17, but I have 2 people that are on leave right now. One due to COVID, one due to maternity leave. So, other than that, you know, we'll be, I mean, if I can hire more people, if I can get more things going faster, we definitely will. But one way or another, I'm sure we'll be covering the whole area, anywhere where there's enough of a density to justify the cost of the infrastructure, you know, within the next 2 years.
Good. I'll go over to Stephanie, then we'll go to Joanne.
Thanks, Sam. Now, I just wanted to probe a bit more on this map. So, you know, if I understand correctly, there was a map. It's a map done at the county level. So when it says it's at the county, so does that mean they did the whole county, or does that mean it's at a level of detail that, for example, does my specific lot, my property, does it appear on this county map as how it's being served? Or is it sort of, well, Williamstown, the village is this? And, you know, like, I'm trying to get a sense of like how much level of detail is out there. And I'm also trying to understand, like, can we see this? Can we share this? If we wanted to share this, you know, is there a process, or do we have to develop, you know, I kind of understand that we need to develop our own map if we want to be able to have kind of free use of it.
So Shauna, you got the maps today from Tim?
Yes, yeah, we did get the maps, and they're kind of at least the ones that I saw. I just had a quick glance over them this afternoon, but from what I saw, they were the similar maps to were in the presentation that was given by Lisa and Jim Pine at the County Council in October. They're kind of a high level, and the maps themselves they have like the octagon shape, or like kind of like the beehive, and they look those particular shapes are, I believe they're I can't think of the kilometers right off the top of my head, but there's certain.
So they're done by a 1 kilometer by 1 kilometer grid. So we have data, and that's how so homes aren't plotted on the mapping, but we know where residents live and businesses are. That created that demand mapping. So when you see the demand mapping, you'll see different colors that are specific to the types of data, not data, but the speeds. And it's too bad. I would have had you pull one up, Shauna.
I'll see if actually I'll bring it up and I'll share my screen with everyone.
And I'll try and explain it. It would probably be better if we invited Paula to a meeting. She's our technical manager, and she worked with like I do comms. I'm not really super technical, but she also worked with a third party RF expertise consultation company that helped create the demand mapping. So remember, it's demand mapping. It's not where there's already necessarily service. We did get some of that out of the ISED mapping from the federal government, but again, it's demand. And demand is also, and the demand is also done at peak time. So if you had, when they did the calculations, I'm gonna this isn't accurate, but it's say like it's 4 people using their devices all at the same time at peak time when all of your neighbors are also using all of their devices. So that's how they built that demand. So it's not only coverage, it would be capacity as well in the network. That's what those demand mappings, the demand maps mean.
Okay, and if it's a 1 kilometer by 1 kilometer grid, I mean, to me, that's a pretty big distance. I mean, there's, you know, if I'm thinking of like Williamstown, if you're going north of Williamstown, there's a lot that changes in a kilometer in terms of the infrastructure that's there. So I just got to get my head around. So you're saying this is demand mapping, but I think I guess what I'm thinking about more is infrastructure and like available infrastructure mapping, I guess, and the capacity of what's already existing, I guess, is what I'm thinking of more so than a demand map.
There are, so ISED does have mapping. ISED, yes, that shows towers. It can be cellular towers, but it also has fixed wireless towers. That is public documentation. When we went out and we did meet with some of the telecommunications service providers, we cannot get fiber maps. You can try as much as you want, but very few. So like Bell's and the Rogers, they just don't give up that information. It's proprietary. We do, oh, Shauna's getting that up.
Sorry guys,
Okay.
Here's one of them. Is this the one that there's
Yeah,
two?
so that's one. So see all the pink. So if you can see I'm doing the meeting, sorry, on my iPad. So it shows the green you can see in Cornwall per se, they have really good connectivity. They already have the 5010 available to them, and you can see that through the green. Anywhere where there's pink, that's where there's demand. That's where people in the United Counties of Stormont, Dundas, and Glengarry don't have access to a 5010 service. Okay, at this point in time. Now, maybe Rolf's network that is building out, we didn't have the data when the maps were created. We may not have that. The white areas are where there's no demand. And what we mean by demand is either a home or a business. So yes, it's on a county level. It may not be granular. I mean, I can talk to Paula and see what see if there's anything else. That's not the GIS map either. That's just like a picture of a map, right? That's like a PDF, right, Shauna? I thought we had provided to, I thought we had provided possibly to the counties GIS type of mapping. I'll have to go back to Paula and ask that, but it would have been very hard for Tim to send that to you anyways over over internet. So again, these are the 1 gig, this is the gig demand, and you can see that again in Cornwall, some of them already have access to that gig. So the green is the most prevalent where we need coverage. So again, we can have Paula come and talk a bit more about how we did our demand mapping. We did get some input from the TSP. So I think what you're looking for, Stephanie, is you're looking to say, okay, well, we know Bell has maybe their wireless home internet on 4 towers in our area, and ExploreNet has 8 towers, and Rolf has X number of towers. Like, is that the information you're looking for? Because I don't have that granular data.
Yeah, I mean, and maybe I'm way off base, but I'm just thinking, like if we want to get, this service to our community, and we want to see how to do it in the most cost efficient way, and we want to see if there's ways where we can encourage or partner or subsidize, like if we know what's already there and we see what's missing, in terms of infrastructure, to me, and again, I'm not, I'm really, I don't know a lot about this, but to me that seems like, it's like with roads. Well, if we know where the roads are and we can see where there's gaps, we can connect the roads. So, with this, these seem like just maps of where there's people, right? As opposed to, obviously it makes sense that like Cornwall and Lancaster and a few spots have, better, I guess, the colors were indicating better speeds. But like, if I want to say, well, like what would we have to, how much fiber would we have to lay out to really be able to connect our township? I have no idea of what that would be. No concept of what the cost might be.
We have costs.
I feel like I'm flying blind.
Yeah, we have done costing at a county level. So we do know what the cost would be for a 5010 type of project. And we also know what it would cost SDNG for a gig project. I don't have it for your specific municipality. We have it at a county level, but we have those costs.
Okay, but again, it's at the county level.
Yeah.
Thanks. Thank you. Thanks.
Joanne? Oh, you're on mute, Joe.
Thanks, Sam. So one thing that Lisa had mentioned, she talked about the ICON grant. And for those of you who are unsure what that is it was an opportunity for internet service providers to partner with municipalities to apply for funding. And it's through the provincial government, where Ontario had invested $150 million in the new program and hopes to leverage with partners in results to invest, I believe it was up to $500 million for cellular coverage, as well as improved broadband. So what we did, and again, this is just really for the committee's benefit, what we did before the first deadline was in August, was we reached out to our internet providers, being Bell, ExploreNet, Cogeco, and we also did discuss this with Ralph. At that time, the only company that we were able to partner with is Bell. And our goal is to, at an upcoming meeting, have Bell come and present to the committee to let you know what their intentions are for the community. But the reason why I'm bringing this up is because I just want the committee to know that we are constantly looking to see what's out there, what we can do, trying to engage the service providers to bring what we can to South Glengarry. And as Sam has indicated, that council has very recently established a budget for 2021 to start investing dollars for connectivity, being internet, or it could be natural gas. And hopefully someday we'll have sufficient funds available that when we do have a company that wants to partner with us, and if the funds are short, then maybe that's something our community or our municipality can do to benefit the community. Thank you.
Okay, I'm just looking. Sylvain, do you have any questions or no? Steph, you're good at this point. I'm just thinking like this might be something we could look at a later date too. If we could maybe like, I don't know if there's a way for us to overlay this, or does it get put into GIS? Like I just pulled out my phone in front of me here and was trying to kind of compare maps because I see this little white corner here along the Ontario-Quebec border, and I'm trying to figure out if it's like, is that the fourth concession, or is that the third, or is that open field that so-and-so's, or just trying to like, I was even trying to find Martintown, and I figured I'll have a hard time looking for that. But yeah, no, I think there's, like Stephanie had said, I think it highlights a large overview, but I think it's for us to be more practical. I think we need something on a more in-depth, kind of more focused on us, and then go from there. I don't know if there's any other questions for Rolf. Or Rolf, if you have any comments. Oh, I see Sean's hand here.
Just I'll be quick because I know Rolf needs to to get moving, but part of if we do have a study as part of the RFP that was discussed at council last week, that'll get into that data that'll be able to we'll be able to present to companies like Rolf's to say these are the gaps, and this is exactly how many people are affected, and it might create a better business case for them to connect quicker than just doing one-ofs every time somebody calls in with a question or a frustration.
Rolf, I don't know if you had any other comments you wanted to make before you signed off. I don't see any.
I mean, everything so far looks pretty good to me. I mean, the more information we get, the better, obviously. I know, typically when it comes to these kind of things and, any kind of government getting involved, it usually takes quite some time to respond, whereas we've typically responded very quickly. We have a rollout plan for this year with 12 sites right now that is going to cover a tremendous area. And when I'm looking at what it's going to cover, a lot of it is going to be in those demand areas according to those maps. So, I would say, look, if we were to meet again a year from now, the picture would probably already look very different. Now, if there's something we can do to help, if we can, provide you guys with more information in any way, I'm also happy to do that. If we can find other ways that we can work together to, basically provide other better services or start providing gigabit services, because we do also have the ability to run fiber, we'd be happy to do that as well. One of the areas we're looking in running fiber right now is Greg Key, because the area is privately owned and they have conduits underground. We're trying to confirm that the committee can give us permission to go into those conduits, and if so, we'll be basically bringing gigabit connectivity to every house in Greg Key. Perfect. And we can do many more projects like that if there's an interest in doing it.
So Rolf, for I guess for the committee members and for Joanne, I guess I'm sure Joanne and Shauna are already know what to do here, but for myself and Stephanie and for Sylvain and Corey, if we get constituents or we're talking to someone who's, often they're complaining about their internet connection and how slow it is, to put them in contact with you, what do we do? Can you maybe forward, or maybe Sean or Joanne can forward?
I will.
How do you like that?
Yep.
Information put to you?
I will send you guys the presentation. It will have all of our official corporate contact info. I will be happy to share my personal info as well. I don't mind if anybody contacts me directly, either via phone, text message, or email, or they can contact our offices. And Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, there's somebody answering calls there. Also, there is a sign-up sheet on our website. Anybody can go in there, put their information in, and it automatically gets added into our database. And basically anybody in our database, as soon as we get coverage in that area, we'll get an automatic email to say service is now available, and you can schedule an installation if you're ready to sign up.
Perfect.
So
That sounds a little bit
you know,
better
whatever
than
way
doing sending a
I'm good to go.
sign. So
I'll share my presentation there with Shauna by email as soon as I get back home. Basically all of my info is in there. If anybody has any questions, you know, feel free to call or email me anytime.
perfect. Sounds good. If there's any other questions for Rolf, now's the time. Not seeing none. Well, thanks again, Rolf, on behalf of the committee. We really appreciate you spending some time with us tonight, as well with Lisa.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for coming on as well.
Thanks, Ralph.
Thank you, guys. Take care.
Take
Bye.
care. So we'll move, looking at the agenda here. We've got Rolf. So updates, the Roma connectivity primer and roadmap, the high-speed internet project, and a verbal update on Enbridge. I'm assuming, is that Shauna or Joanne giving that?
Yeah, it's a joint initiative.
Perfect.
I just wanted to say to the committee that Rolf has been excellent to work with. If there's been times over the last couple of months that people have called in, and he's so responsive. He's able to you know, follow up with them very quickly and go out and do a site visit if he can't see it on the computer. And it's been really nice to work with him. So just wanted to give him that little bit of kudos, because it's definitely worthwhile. Okay, so there's, over the last couple months, there's been a program that's kind of in partnership with AMO and with Roma through the Rural Ontario Municipal Association. For those of you unfamiliar with the acronym, there's two publications that have recently come out. One is a broadband connectivity municipal primer, and one is the broadband connectivity municipal roadmap. And I did forward these to the committee in the first email. If you'd like me to resend them, that's definitely no problem. Both reports, or both papers, I should say, are really, really well done. And they give you a really good explanation and fill in the gaps and definitions of a lot of information that is talked about when installing internet and what it's all about, different avenues for council members, different things for staff to do, different ways to achieve the goals to make sure that the entire community is connected. One of the examples that they use and how to get started in connecting your committee in the roadmap paper is to have a connectivity committee. So South Glengarry has already done that, so we're ahead of the game in that respect. A lot of the different things that they've suggested, we've already have the ball rolling, but it's definitely worth a read, or just to go through, look at the definitions, look at some of the suggestions that they make, because they make a lot of sense, and it just speaks in like regular English, not technical terms. Does anybody have any questions on those two? No? Okay, I'll just go ahead and to the next one then. So the high-speed internet project refers to the report that was brought to council last week. The request was, or the report had some information about why it would be important to go to RFP to hire a consultant to do a detailed analysis of the connectivity within South Glengarry. So similar to our conversation this evening, there's definitely organizations, EORN's one of the leaders that have reviewed and analyzed connectivity throughout Stormont, Dundas, and Glengarry, but there is nothing specific on a granular basis for South Glengarry specifically. So what this RFP would do would be to go to have a consultant come in, do a detailed analysis of each individual property within South Glengarry, review the connections that are currently existing, make suggestions on how the connections can be improved, what challenges are existing, and how we can then find a way to overcome them, as well as include a time frame and a budget. So if there are questions from the community, the council will have a detailed, up-to-date information to be able to provide to residents and business owners and give them some clear direction as to what's happening for internet service in the community. Just as a side note, we've had some excellent news recently with a business owner that was kind of at wit's end, and they had a few different, they worked with the township and staff and a variety of different providers, and they were able to get connected. And not only were they able to get connected, but they were able to get connected to a 1 gig service, which is awesome because they were using multiple providers and they had all this machinery to connect, and now they're connected. Well, they'll be able to just use one, and they have 1 gig, which is amazing. So they're super happy, but things like that are happening. It's just to get all that information into one spot, and hopefully this, at the end of this project, that's where everything will kind of house. So we'll know exactly what's going on and who the players are. Does anybody have any questions about that?
Just had one there for you, Shauna, and then I'll go to Corey. I was just wondering, I guess, are we going to be able to build off some of that stuff that Lisa and some of that map we had seen today, or is that going to be useful to us at all in building that next step almost?
I think so. I think any data that we have is going to be useful. I mean, there's a lot of work that's gone in behind it. And that kind of is a starting point, and we could take it from there. Right away, we can see where the gaps are. There's actually a website which ICON uses, the grant for the internet, and they base it, you have to go in there and see where you fall and how connected you are. For it's called CIRA, or CIRA is the acronym, but this particular map is really useful, and it's what all the ISPs, or majority of the ISPs, refer to that whenever they're going to connect, and how they're making a business case to connect to communities. For those of you that are familiar with the business newsletter that is sent out every couple of weeks, I've started including a speed test. This speed test is free, but it connects right back to that CIRA data. So the more data that we can pull in through South Glengarry specifically, the easier it'll be for the consultant and for any ISPs for that matter to connect, to see exactly where we stand and where the gaps are.
Good. Corey, you had a question. I saw you had your hand up there.
Yeah, thanks, Sam. Just more of a comment. I just think of the PR side as well, and success stories, right? So Shauna, you're mentioning this business that, you know, now has so many more opportunities ahead of them, and Joanne, if you agree as well, maybe we should file those away, because I agree with what you said about data. I'm a data guy, and all data matters. It's important, right? Because it always links back to something else. But this could be a really good indicator of some positive economic development in the community. So just something for you to keep on your radar.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I was so happy for them. It was when I mentioned to the business owner, I'm not sure if I can say their name, so he said, well, you should have told me to sit down before you told me that, because it was he was so happy. Originally it was going to be $40,000 to connect, and we were able to figure out a way where he didn't have to pay that, and so he just has to pay his monthly fee, and it was a good news story. Good day that day.
And a good partnership, right? And a good partnership with the township, and how the township helped to build that bridge. So yeah, thank you.
I don't see any more questions. You can keep going there, Shauna, if you want. Oh,
Sorry, I should, I did put the little hand up, but I
sorry.
don't know if you saw it. It's Lisa. I just want to let everybody know that we have been advocating to the federal and provincial governments for a gig project, which would be 95% of the homes and businesses would be connected by a fiber connection. Unfortunately, EORM does not, it's not that we don't qualify for the new universal broadband funding. That's where we thought we would apply for our project, but our model doesn't fit their application process. So we have had meetings with the minister. We met with the minister, and we've also met with staff. And so it's not completely dead in the water, but it's not going to be as easy a process as what we were hoping. And we have been working with MP Druin on that as well. He's been very helpful in trying to push that project forward. So for us right now, it's where to find the funding, because how we do it is different than how the UBF funding application, because again, you have to have your TSP ahead of time. You have to provide detailed plans as to how the rollout would go, the technical design. And what we do is we get a chunk of money, we run a competitive process, do an RFP, try and get the best value for dollar, as well as ensure that it's not just always, we spread the money throughout the industry. So yes, there are some national companies who've received money from us in the past, but there's also local TSPs who have received money. So I just wanted to let the committee know it's we aren't stopping pushing it, but it probably won't come as quickly as what we thought it might. So that's why we are not encouraging, but, and I have had a conversation with Shauna, we do know that there's other municipalities and counties also hiring consultants and looking at what they can do for their own either municipality or county in the event that we can't find funding to do further broadband projects at this time. So.
Okay, I see Stephanie's hand was up there, unless Sean, what did you hear?
I was just going to say, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead, Shauna.
I was just going to say that the information that the consultant comes out with, Lisa, would that help you in your funding?
Sure, and it would also help, I mean, any of that would help. It would help too if we do get a broadband project, you would also, you would have just that much more granular detail that we could possibly partner with you and look at and provide to any TSPs who would be interested in bidding on the area. And so all of, and like you said, Shauna, all data helps, right? It all helps make the process run more smoothly the more data you have.
Perfect. Stephanie, did you want to make a comment there, or you had a question?
Yeah, so I just wanted to get a sense of, like, because again, I kind of looked at, like, you know, this getting this consultant, doing this mapping gives us more detailed data, but also helps us move, you know, maybe we don't get the gig right away, but it might help us get a lot better, quicker, immediately, you know what I mean? Whereas these other projects sound like they're longer horizon. And I guess I guess that's a question to Lisa, like when people say, like, you know, it's not as quick as we had hoped, or this is what we expect when these things will come through. I guess I was just hoping you could, like, refresh my memory of, like, what kind of time horizon are we looking at for these, like, EORN driven, or like the ones where EORN is sort of the driving force? What's the time horizon on those?
So the cell project, we have chosen a preferred proponent. We're in the negotiation phase with them right at this point in time. Sadly, I can't share that information with you until we sign the contract, but we're hoping that will be completed by March. So I guess a little bit of a timeline for us. We had to, we presented our first business case on the cell project in 2017. The government felt that the cell networks at the time were not deemed broadband. So again, we didn't fit into the box. But with a lot of, it took us almost 2 years to advocate for the project. They finally announced it in 2019. Then we have 8 months where we had to negotiate a contribution agreement with the provincial government. And from the time we had an RFP out in April, at the end of April, it was back in, because it's a large 55,000 square kilometers, because it was for the whole region. We got that back at the beginning of September. We evaluated, had something to our board as to who the preferred proponent, so we could enter into contract negotiations. We gave that to our board at the end of November, and we will be signing a contract with the preferred proponent by March. So once we actually get the funding, it seems like it's a hurry up and wait. They make an announcement about funding, but what folks don't understand is that you have to actually do a contribution agreement or a transfer payment agreement with the province. So it's a negotiation of a contract with the province before any of that money can start flowing, or even before we can issue an RFP. Once we're actually able to start the work, we know that you will see construction and or upgrades to existing infrastructure for the cell. That will begin probably as early as April or May of this year. So once we get the money, we can go through the process, get over the hurdle of the initial work with the government. Things can go fairly quickly, but these are big builds. So if we were doing a gig project for the entire region, we would be looking at probably a 5-year build out, right? So it would take us to finish the whole region, but we light areas up as we go. So just bigger scale, but you know, whichever companies do get funding through either the ICON or the UBF, they too will have to have contracts with the governments that will need to be negotiated. So I just want people, even if the TSP is successful at being awarded funding, they'll still have to have, the government has to do their due diligence, and they'll have to have contracts and stuff in place with all of those TSPs.
Okay.
So that it takes time.
No, but thank you. I think that sort of kind of, I mean, it makes me feel more comfortable in what I was already thinking, in the sense that we're looking more at like immediate
quick
gratification.
Quick wins.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Quick wins versus the more massive projects that are sort of like next generation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
So I guess, do we want to go to the Enbridge project next?
Yes, I can certainly speak to that. I'm just going to stop sharing Shauna's screen since we're near the end, if that's okay. So I'll just give a little bit of a recap, because it's been a while since we met. I believe it was early April of last year, where we got the committee together to talk about where we felt the needs were for natural gas expansion. And you may recall that we decided upon the area around the airport and kind of Summerstown Station. We also included an area along the South Service Road between Lancaster and Baynesville. And then we also chose the Curry Hill area. And then we did have Enbridge come back to us and ask us to keep the Glendale subdivision area as well, because that was an area that was being lobbied quite heavily by our former councils in terms of bringing natural gas to that location. So I'm not sure if you recall, but one of the goals was to provide the information to Enbridge by their April deadline, was because they had their own work to do in order to meet a deadline for August 2020 with the province, specifically the Ontario Energy Board. We were hoping that an announcement was going to be made by the province in December based on their submission in August. Unfortunately, with COVID, it has been delayed. And we were informed by Enbridge that the province has delayed their announcement and maybe they're hoping to hear later this month. It's only a suggested timeline by the ministry because COVID has resulted in a lot of different changes in how monies are being spent. So as soon as Enbridge hears anything, they know to let us know, or they have committed to let us know. So I'm sorry we don't have more kind of better news on that front. But unfortunately, with the pandemic, I think just other priorities were more prevalent. And the good thing is, though, is that we got our submission in, Enbridge submitted, and we're just waiting to hear back.
I guess COVID really threw a wrench into all of that. I know they were talking, what was it? I think the minister had told us shovel ready by September.
Mm-hmm.
The shovels are,
Yeah, I think that was, yeah.
I think
But
they're
yeah.
talking about spade shovels.
And a different year.
Maybe.
Yeah, so he said September. It didn't need to be last year. Yeah, I guess, are there any other questions for Joanne or anything we'd like to talk about at a future meeting or anything that comes to mind? Should we be looking more at cell coverage too, or should we stick to what we've got our teeth sunk into now? Build one map at a time. Shauna, go ahead.
This is just a comment. We got some information through ExploreNet. They're currently doing a tower. I think the committee was copied on the most recent tower for 5G up by Glenroy Road, Caber Road, that kind of area. But the consultant was able to do some research for me, and she's not privy to what their future plans were or are going to be, but she did send me a map of the locations where the ExploreNet towers are currently. And she does say that their long-term goal is to have all of those towers be 5G. So I can also share that map with the committee as well. If you're curious as to where the ExploreNet towers are currently right now, it kind of gives you an overview. Not just South Glengarry, kind of, I think it goes South Stormont, North Stormont too.
I see Lisa's got her hand up there, and then Stephanie.
Sorry, everybody. I feel like I'm yakking too much.
So
with the cell project, once we're able to announce the preferred proponent, we will have details as per county, but per municipality, how many proposed towers will be going in. It won't be the day, we won't be able to get out to every muni the day that we announce, but we will have that information for you. So we will know how many towers will be upgraded, and we will also know how many towers will be built or proposed to be built. Because even though they have provided us with a technical design, it's a high level technical design, and that could change because they're going to have to come to you as the municipality because you're the local you're the land use authority, and so they will have to be getting into contact with you after we make the announcement. So they're chomping at the bit as well to get going on that, but we will be able to share more of that information as well. I can tell you it is a significant build for Eastern Ontario, and the investment that they're making is phenomenal. I just can't tell you who it is, unfortunately, at this point in time.
Stephanie, then Sylvain.
Thanks. My question was like for these towers or for the tower that's for Glenroy, I was just wondering like what's the process like in terms of, you know, like similar to what you do, Joanne, like for planning, like notifications, public consultation, etc.
Okay, well, I can speak to that because I'm responsible for the processes when the towers are proposed in our municipality. So what happens is usually it's usually an intermediate company that works between the actual tower owner and the municipality, and they look after the public consultation portion. Because we don't have our own formal public consultation procedures, we rely on the Industry Canada procedures. So they usually reach out to the municipality to let us know that they have entered into a lease agreement with the property owner to move forward with a request for a tower. And we're never involved in advance of that lease agreement in my experiences. So when they come to me, they are asking for me to consider the proposal, consider the location. I review it within our official plan policies and zoning bylaw. Our policies are very open. We basically allow communication towers as they're considered a public interest or a public facility, so they're allowed in any zone. And then in order to start the public process, they'll ask us to provide to them the names and addresses of all the adjacent property owners within 3 times the height of the tower. And so you would have heard Rolf say that their towers are not as high because they want to avoid this process. This process is lengthy, it's costly. Sometimes you wait a long time for Industry Canada's approval, but anytime I believe you're over 60 meters, I think, don't quote me on that, but I believe if you're over a 60-meter tower, then you're subject to Industry Canada approval. So in this recent case, and I believe Shauna had shared that information with you in regards to Caber Road, that is an area that is a big need for internet and cellular. That is probably one of the easier tower processes I've gone through, because I had a couple of individuals who contacted me saying, what can you do to make this be approved, as opposed to someone objecting to the tower. And then I did have one abutting property owner that was really kind of curious about the distance and if they were to build a home and what the Health Canada's perspective was on any health impacts. And I got a really nice email from that property owner letting me know that they had a positive experience with the provider and were really happy with the information that was shared with them. So once the public timeframe is over, I then receive an email from the company asking me to basically sign off on the municipal consultation process. And then I write the letter and send it off, and then they continue following through the Industry Canada protocol. I've had different experiences where they take a long time to be approved. Sometimes they're approved faster. I don't know what results in that time frame and why sometimes it's faster or slower. I don't know that. I do know that sometimes when approval is granted, there's no guarantee that the tower will be built. And the reason for that is because sometimes these companies are doing it in advance and kind of hoping that a tower will come along and they'll be ready. But most of the time I'm dealing with a company that, most of the time I'm dealing with a company that knows they want to build as soon as possible. Lisa just put a note out to everyone that they're also creating a resource guide on tower siting and 5G resource. We used to have a contract with CRINS. It was a not-for-profit organization that led the process, and we're no longer a member of that organization. So now we use our own. So if Jorn comes out with a siting guide and a resource guide for this, that would be fantastic, because there's always so much to learn. And I find, for me anyway, I don't get enough requests to become an expert because we're not doing them all the time. And I enjoy receiving them. I enjoy learning about it, but it's just not that common. So hopefully that answers your question, Stephanie.
So specifically in the Glenroy case, does that mean like those property owners around it have already been notified, or that is to come?
They've already been notified. It's been in the local newspaper. They've had their opportunity to participate either by reaching out to the municipality, which would be me, or the company directly. And I got the request, I believe it was Thursday or Friday of last week, to complete the letter. I haven't done it yet, but it's on my to-do list. So that public process is now considered complete.
Thank you.
So I'll go to Sylvain.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I was talking with a provider here last month, I guess, and they're upgrading the tower on Glen Norman next door net for a better service. So that came out just before actually they told us about the other ones.
I also know of somebody on Neville Road who's got, I think it's fiber to the tower. I know they said it's miles ahead of where they were. They had multiple providers in there before, between Explorenet and Shaw, and I think they were getting, it was the same as what I was getting in my last house, which was 2 download. So that's impressive. They're now up to like 14, I think it is. Okay, so any other questions at this point? Shauna, Joanne, did you have anything else to add? No. So I guess, do I call for an adjournment then of the meeting?
Actually, can I just add one more thing?
Go ahead, Joe.
Shauna and I are always talking about, what we can do for meetings. I know the committee, we haven't overly engaged you, and I apologize for that, but I find this type of committee is going to be very much project driven. And we don't want to waste your time, but at the same time, we're constantly trying to think of guest speakers. As I mentioned to you earlier, Bell might be interested in coming and speaking to us to explain if they're successful with the ICON grant, what it'll do for South Glengarry. But are these types of things that would be of interest to you for you to continue learning and what's happening? I mean, we don't want to just ask our chair to call meetings for nothing, but if we know what you're looking for, we'll try and fill your, fill the requirements as well as bring projects to you for consideration.
I personally think the more education, the better, especially for the committee, because your community is going to be looking to you and your council as not the experts, but they're going to be looking to you for guidance, I think. So I think it's a great idea.
I think I agree with Lisa tonight. The learning, I guess the learning opportunity we got from Rolf was extremely helpful. And I'm sorry, I was looking off screen here. Lisa wrote a message. So maybe Shauna, you could help with this. Any, or Joanne already put her will do on, but yeah, any land the municipality has them, we could maybe potentially put towers on. That'd be good. Shauna, go ahead.
I was just going to say, just follow up to Joanne's point. There is an interest. I was speaking with the gentleman who runs that CIRA mapping system, which does the speed tests. And there's, it's a Canadian, they actually, when you see .ca for any website, that's also the organization. It's not for profit. They run that side of things as well, but they also run the Canadian speed test. And they are willing to come and give a presentation if the committee is interested in hearing from them as well.
Can I ask who your contact was? Because I know one of the gentlemen that is now working for CIRA, he actually used to be one of the main people at Storm Internet. So if anybody's familiar with Storm, so he has a lot of background actually in the industry, and he now works for CIRA. So that's just if it's the same person I'm thinking of. I just can't remember his name off the top of my head right at the moment.
Lisa, I think it's one of the people that you referred me to.
Oh, Jonathan. Is it Jonathan? Jonathan.
I'm just going to double check because I spoke to so many different people.
I know, and it's been a
Grant Street.
Yes, it's Grant. Grant worked for Storm Internet. So they are a fixed wireless service, or Storm, and they also do some fiber. And they have more of a presence in the Winchester, Chesterville area. So Grant, he'd be very good to listen to and tell you what CIRA does.
Yeah, I should just expand it into Lanark County as well.
Oh yeah, Storm has always had a presence in Lanark County. So yeah.
I believe actually it's Lanark County that just wrapped up an RFP in mid-December for hiring a consultant to do a study as well.
They did, yeah. And Northumberland, just so you know, Northumberland County also has an RFP out, but they're looking at it to do a gig to the home for their entire county. So yeah, lots of people are doing a lot of different things, so.
No, I think that would be a good presentation, Shauna. I don't know if there's any, I'm looking and see a lot of nodding around the table. Perfect, thumbs up, good. All right, maybe that would be a good one to work on for our next meeting. And I don't know if we want to move to adjourn at this point, or anybody else has any more comments or questions, or. No, I'm not seeing none. Lisa, we really appreciate you coming on and giving us your input and sharing all of your knowledge with us. It's greatly appreciated every time you're here.
Well, if you ever want to kick me off, or you want me to get out of the meeting, just let me know. I won't be offended at all. It's A-okay.
You won't be so lucky.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. It was a pleasure.
Thanks. So I guess we'll move to adjourn at this point. I don't know if we really need to, but I'll take a mover and seconder. Stephanie, Corey, perfect. All in favor? Good.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joe.
Thanks
Thanks,
everyone.
guys.
Take care. Stay safe.
Stay safe. Have a good evening.